is to create the growth that puts people to work. We need growth that is fair, where every nation plays by the rules, where workers' rights are respected, and our businesses can compete on a level playing field, where the intellectual property and new technologies that fuel innovation are protected, and where currencies are market-driven, so no nation has an unfair advantage. We also need growth that is broad, not just for the few, but for the many, with reforms that protect consumers from abuse, and a global commitment to end the corruption that stifles growth. We need growth that is balanced, because we will all prosper more when countries with large surpluses take action to boost demand at home. And we need growth that is sustainable. This includes the clean energy that creates green jobs and combats climate change, which cannot be denied. We see it in the stronger fires, the devastating floods, and the Pacific Islands confronting rising seas. And as countries with large carbon footprints, the United States and Australia have a special responsibility to lead. Now, every nation will contribute to the solution in its own way, and I know this issue is not without controversy in both our countries. But what we can do, and what we are doing, is to work together to make unprecedented investments in clean energy, to increase energy efficiency, and to meet the commitments we made at Copenhagen and Cancun. We can do this, and we will. As we grow our economies, we'll also remember the link between growth and good governance. The rule of law, transparent institutions, the equal administration of justice. Because history shows that over the long run, democracy and economic growth go hand in hand. And prosperity without freedom is just another form of poverty. And this brings me to the final area where we are leading, our support for the fundamental rights of every human being. Every nation will chart its own course. Yet it is also true that certain rights are universal. Among them, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and the freedom of citizens to choose their own leaders. These are not American rights or Australian rights or Western rights. These are human rights. They stir in every soul, as we've seen in the democracies that have succeeded here in Asia. Other models have been tried and they have failed. Fascism, communism, ruled by one man and ruled by committee. And they failed for the same simple reason. They ignore the ultimate source of power and legitimacy, the will of the people. Yes, democracy can be messy and rough. I understand you mix it up quite well during question time. But whatever our differences of party or of ideology, we know in our democracies we are blessed with the greatest form of government ever known to man. So as two great democracies, we speak up for those freedoms when they are threatened. We partner with emerging democracies like Indonesia to help strengthen the institutions upon which depend on an informed and active citizenry. We help strengthen civil societies because they empower our citizens to hold their governments accountable. And we advance the rights of all people, women, minorities, and indigenous cultures. Because when societies harness the potential of all their citizens, these societies are more successful, they are more prosperous, and they are more just. These principles have guided our approach to Burma, with a combination of sanctions and engagement. Today, Aung San Suu Kyi is free from house arrest. Some political prisoners have been released. The government has begun a dialogue. Still, violations of human rights persist, so we will continue to speak clearly about the steps that must be taken for the government of Burma to have a better relationship with the United States. This is the future we seek in the Asia Pacific. Security, prosperity, and dignity for all. That's what we stand for. That's who we are. That's the future we will pursue in partnership with allies and friends and with every element of American power. So let there be no doubt. In the Asia-Pacific in the 21st century, the United States of America is all in. Still, in times of great change and uncertainty, the future can seem unsettling. Across a vast ocean, it's impossible to know what lies beyond the horizon. But if this vast region and its people teach us anything, it's the yearning for liberty and progress will not be denied. It's why women in this country demanded that their voices be heard, making Australia the first nation to let women vote and run for parliament and one day become prime minister. It's why the people took to the streets from Delhi to Seoul, from Manila to Jakarta to throw off colonialism and dictatorship and build some of the world's largest democracies. It's why a soldier in a watchtower along the DMZ defends the free people in the South, and why a man from the North risks his life to escape across the border. Why soldiers in blue helmets keep the peace in a new nation, and why women of courage go into brothels to save young girls from modern-day slavery, which must come to an end. It's why men of peace in saffron robes face beatings and bullets, and why every day, some of the world's largest cities to dusty rural towns, small acts of courage the world may never see. A student posts a blog, a citizen signs a charter, an activist remains unbowed, imprisoned in his home, just to have the same rights that we cherish here today. Men and women like these know what the world must never forget. The currents of history may ebb and flow, but over time they move decisively, in a single direction. History is on the side of the free. Free societies, free governments, free economies, free people. And the future belongs to those who stand firm for those ideals in this region and around the world. This is the story of the alliance we celebrate today. This is the essence of America's leadership in our partnership with Indonesia against piracy and violent extremism, and in our work with Malaysia to prevent proliferation. And the ships will deploy to Singapore, and in our closer cooperation with Vietnam and Cambodia, and in our welcome of India as it looks east and plays a larger role as an Asian power. At the same time, we're re-engaged with our regional organizations. Our work in Bali this week will mark my third meeting with ASEAN leaders, and I'll be proud to be the first American president to attend the East Asia Summit. Together, I believe we can address shared challenges such as proliferation and maritime security, including cooperation in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, the United States will continue our effort to build a cooperative relationship with China. All of our nations, Australia, the United States, all of our nations have a profound interest in the rise of a peaceful and prosperous China. That's why the United States welcomes it. We've seen that China can be a partner, from reducing tensions on the Korean Peninsula to preventing proliferation. And we'll seek more opportunities for cooperation with Beijing, including greater communication between our militaries to promote understanding and avoid miscalculation. We will do this even as we continue to speak candidly to Beijing about the importance of upholding international norms and respecting the universal human rights of the Chinese people. A secure and peaceful Asia is the foundation for the second area in which America is leading again, and that's advancing our shared prosperity. History teaches us the greatest force the world has ever known for creating wealth and opportunity is free markets. So we seek economies that are open and transparent, We seek trade that is free and fair, and we seek an open international economic system where rules are clear and every nation plays by them. In Australia and America, we understand these principles. We're among the most open economies on earth. 6 years into our landmark trade agreement, commerce between us has soared. Our workers are creating new partnerships and new products, like the advanced aircraft technologies we built together in Victoria. We're the leading investor in Australia, and you invest more in America than you do in any other nation, creating good jobs in both countries. We recognize that economic partnerships can't just be about one nation extracting another's resources. We understand that no long-term strategy for growth can be imposed from above. Real prosperity, prosperity that fosters innovation, and prosperity that endures, comes from unleashing our greatest economic resource. And that's the entrepreneurial spirit and talents of our people. So even as America competes aggressively in Asian markets, we're forging the economic partnerships that create opportunity for all. Building on our historic trade agreement with South Korea, we're working with Australia and our other APEC partners to create a seamless regional economy. And with Australia and other partners, we're on track to achieve our most ambitious trade agreement yet, and a potential model for the entire region, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The United States remains the world's largest and most dynamic economy, but in an interconnected world, we all rise and fall together. That's why I pushed so hard to put the G20 at the front and center of global economic decision-making, to give more nations a leadership role in managing the international economy, including Australia. On together for the security and prosperity and dignity of all people. So God bless Australia, God bless America, and God bless the friendship between our two peoples. Thank you very much.
Standing ovation there for President Barack Obama inside the House of Representatives. He has addressed Parliament. He's spoken for about half an hour. He has basically reaffirmed the bonds between Australia and the US. He said he loves our optimism and our easygoing ways. He recognised the apology that was made to Indigenous Australians. He spoke about his visit earlier this morning to the Australian War Memorial, saying he was deeply moved. It is a reminder to him that Aussies and Americans have fought together. He talked about our ANZUS treaty. He also mentioned Afghanistan there and paid tribute to the 32 Australians who have been killed. He said the main purpose of his visit to Australia is to advance